Hey everyone, welcome to Time on Track. This is a podcast where we navigate the high-speed racing and constantly changing storylines of Formula One. I'm Amarveer and I'm joined as always by Ricardo. Ricardo, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I've I I've been so anticipating this podcast. And it's days like today where I'm happy we don't immediately record like the day of the race or even the day after, just because it gives us an opportunity to really listen to the different perspectives and kind of get like a like be able to make an informed opinion or thought about how we feel about the race instead of it being like that instant ah
Yeah,
like it gives us a little breathing room to really be like, okay, I felt that way Sunday night, do I still feel that way on Tuesday?
a little rest and
And
digest.
yes. Because honestly, there's really no need to rush, because I would hope that people are listening to us for our perspectives. And you know what? We like to take some time to really think about how we feel about these races.
Yeah, this
Um,
is a
but
nuanced
enough.
conversation about Formula One. But yeah,
There we go.
before
There we go.
before we jump into Monza, do we want to do a wrist check?
Of
You
course.
want to go first?
That's sure. I will go first. I am wearing the Zodiac Super Seawolf World Timer.
Oh, cool.
I really like this watch. This is one of those watches that we tend to have like lying around the office from when they first originally came out. And any chance I get to like just pick it up and wear it for a little while, I do. It's truly a world timer, which I really appreciate. It's not like some of the faux world timers, as I like to call them. I just really like this one. You have your 24-hour sub dial. You have your 24 cities on the bezel. You have your 24-hour hand, and you have your date wheel. I always feel like a GMT or a world timer, you kind of need a date to get like a better perspective of what's going on. And for those who don't know, so with a world timer, the way the way I tend to operate it is I set my 24-hour hand to a specific city.
Hmm.
In this instance, Paris, which is about 6 hours time difference from New York. And anytime I want to know what time it is anywhere else, I just move Paris to the hour right before the red hand. So the 24-hour hand. Once you do that, you instantly know what the time is in any of those other cities.
Hmm.
Or you could just set it to whatever your current time is. So I'm in New York and it's about 10 p.m. I could just move that over to 10, and then I'll be able to know the time anywhere else. And I just like it. It's the size is perfect on this. It's like you would think these are 22 millimeter straps because the case is so small compared to the straps, but
Yep.
no, it's the 20 millimeter strap. And yeah, the sizing on this is just perfect.
Yeah, it's a good looking watch. I love world timers are just cool watches. Just in general, it's a cool complication. I do like the bezel in that one a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it checks a lot of the boxes, I'd say.
Yeah, the only thing I could ask for more on this is if like the cities were loomed.
Hmm.
Like that's another aspect of a GMT I feel like a lot of brands disregard. Everything needs to be loomed.
Does anyone do like a
Everything.
full loomed world timer?
I don't, not off the top of my head that I could think of, because I always picture it this way. With such time differences, chances are like you're going to be making calls either late in the evening or early in the morning.
Right.
And like there's something to like waking up in like a dark hotel room, picking up your watch and instantly being able to be like, oh, this is the time there.
Yeah.
And I always feel like so many brands just disregard it. Some brands don't even loom the 24-hour hand, they just loom the regular hour hands. And I'm just like, no, everything should be loomed. Like if you really think about it, on a GMT, a world timer, like that's actually being used, not a world timer that's all, ooh, it's pretty. No, I mean, like a world timer that someone is actually using, everything should be loomed. But maybe I'm crazy for thinking that.
No, I mean I've
What
definitely
is
been there in the weird hotel room with no light, and you're like, "What time is it? Where am I?" Who am I? What am I doing with my life? Why am I not watching Formula One?
What about you? What you wearing?
I am wearing my trusty Tudor Ranger.
Nice.
Can't go
Camo
wrong.
strap.
Camo strap. This is not the OG Tudor camo strap. This is the crown and buckle version, which is actually pretty nice. It's the material is pretty similar to the Tudor one. I think it's actually made from the
Mm.
same materials, um, or the same manufacturer as, or at least the same yarn, whatever you want to call it, as where Tudor gets their uh,
Do they
their straps from.
do they still make those straps, or was this like an older thing that they did before in the
The
past?
crown and buckle one,
Yeah.
I think I've had this one for about 2 years, because so Tudor definitely doesn't make the camo strap for this watch anymore. And that was such a cool moment in time when they did, because when is a company like Tudor ever doing camo on anything?
Yeah.
It was so cool. So I actually have two of the original ones, but I'm so afraid of messing them up now. But this watch looks so cool on the camo strap that I had to find a replacement. So pretty happy with
Nice.
this watch. But yeah,
Oh,
this is the this is my adventure watch. I've mentioned it before, but most recently now this watch has been to the top of Grand Paradiso, Mont Blanc de Toucal, and the actual Mont Blanc. So add some summits to it. This is the Tudor Ranger actually
very
doing what it's
nice.
supposed to do.
Very nice. I mean, you should like at this point in time, you should like if it's a Tudor Ranger, I'm guessing the case back is pretty naked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to start engraving stuff like
Oh yeah,
dates and locations,
you
like just in a small script as and readable as possible. Just 10,000 something feet.
that's an actually that's a pretty interesting idea. So I have this like thing that I've been working on for the last decade, which is like climbing one big mountain every year for 10 years, and next year is going to be the final. Uh,
Hmm.
Potentially just hiking Kilimanjaro with my dad, but
Hmm.
I had thought of engraving on the back of this watch because I've worn it for 8 of the 9 mountains already, and
Hmm.
hopefully 9 out of 10. I was going to do like one of the peaks, but the actual like maybe engraving each summit with like the elevation or something or the date would be pretty cool too. That's something to think about. I haven't thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I mean, the other thing you could do is if it's going to last that long, which it should,
Yeah.
like I would engrave it with some type of digital readable thing. So that like when you turn it around, you put your phone and it brings you to like whatever site or whatever place you've created
Oh, interesting.
because you're going to
Yeah.
be adding to that list.
Yeah. That's true
So
too.
you want a list that could like evolve with it. So you keep the link or whatever. I mean, there's got to be nice, like the little square QR
Yeah.
codes. There's got to be like a cool looking QR code that you can make that looks like a summit,
Interesting.
and it scans it and it just brings it straight to your like Armorvere summits,
Yeah.
like date, like elevation, everything. I think that would be pretty cool.
Wow.
I think that would really be pretty
You're
cool.
blowing my mind. Engraving a QR code on the back of a analog watch. This is
Yeah.
this is the future, everyone.
I think that's the perfect because think of it, there's no possible way that you'd be able to fit all the information you'd want
Right.
on that case back.
Right.
Or else you basically would have to like finish a case back,
Hmm.
retire it, get another one from Tudor, start again, retire that. I mean,
I mean,
that's
that would
also
be pretty
another
awesome
hassle.
too. Yeah.
That would be actually, yeah, yeah, actually, yeah. I take back what I said about the QR code. Like, just call Tudor up and be like, "Yo, send me like 3 or 4 Tudor Ranger case backs," and then as you finish summits, you
Yeah.
retire the case back and you move
It's
on
like
to the next one.
challenge coins, but case
Yeah.
backs. Yeah, that's a cool idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Listen, this is guys like you. I know you be wondering like, oh, you guys, you call time on track. You guys don't really talk that much about watches. You know why? Because if we talked about watches, these episodes would be 3 hours long.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
we've gotta focus back on the F1
Right.
and give you guys just a little bit of watch talk
Yeah.
because it would be crazy if we decided to go all
I know
out.
we always talk about keeping it tight, and then here we are 10 minutes in still talking about watches. So,
Exactly, exactly.
uh,
Okay, let's
should we
try to
do it?
keep
Should
it
we
tight.
keep it tight? All right.
Let's keep it tight. So, I mean, good place to start. Let's start with qualifying. Qualifying for the Monza. Actually, there's one aspect we didn't even mention when talking about
Oh
qualifying.
yeah.
We have to talk about Kimi Antonelli. We've got to talk about Kimi Antonelli. We completely did not even mention that in all of our discussions about what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's true.
But we've got to talk about him. I'm pleasantly surprised with the kid. I think he has an amazing. I think he has amazing talent.
Hmm.
I think what I'm worried about is George Russell the person, and I'm not saying this to say that George Russell isn't talented, but like I'm saying like is George Russell the person that you want like tutoring, like being the tutor to this kid? Because I look at him and I looked at that qualifying and I'm like I almost wish Hamilton wasn't leaving because like under the tutelage of Lewis
I see.
Hamilton,
Yeah,
I think this kid with his pure pace and pure speed, I think under the tutelage of Lewis Hamilton, like this kid would become a beast. Like an absolute beast.
potentially.
Like potentially.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a great person to teach him. But now I kind of look at what he's walking into with George Russell. And I'm kind of wondering like who's gonna be that person on the
Yeah.
team who's gonna be his tutor.
Wait, for
Because
one,
I don't
has it become official yet? Is he officially?
yes,
He
yeah,
is?
he's official.
Okay.
It's
I
he's
haven't seen
official.
that
It's
news.
official.
So he's
Yeah,
official.
it's officially official. Like
Okay.
he's taking photos with everyone.
Yeah.
It's officially
All
official.
right.
Like he crashed and he got on the team. It's officially official.
So he crashed in FP1. So he was filling
Mhm.
in for George Russell for practice one. Like
Dude.
every team does this, right? It's like
Mhm.
you have to have a team driver or someone else that's not actually the racer, like do one practice session. So he did that,
Mhm.
and man,
He crashes. George looking at him like, "Yo, dude, I'm about to F you up." like that's my car.
yeah,
like,
he went really
but
hard, right? So his like he did what 2 laps, and on the second lap, going into the last turn, Parabolica, uh, just just
yeah,
full send and then full spin.
yeah. I think like there have been some really good points that people have made about this, and I think the one I've really like just jumped on was I think it's Peter Windsor. I like he had mentioned how like you don't for a young talent like that, why would you put him on softs? Like there's got to be a little build up.
Hmm.
Like he's got to start on like a slower tire, like a set of hards, kind of get a better feel for the car before like all of a sudden like you put him on softs.
I mean,
Like
I see that.
I would
It's the grip. You want
yeah,
softs for the grip. Like you're just gonna
yeah.
grip more.
But you're gonna grip more, but you're also gonna be much faster. Like
Yeah.
there's got to be like a graduation in terms of speed.
Hmm.
Like I would think it akin to like me, Ricardo, who's never driven a race car, hopping into like a NASCAR for the first time, and then just like them saying, "Go ahead, like
Yeah.
we've got the NOS in there and everything. Just have a ball with it,
Just
like."
hammer down. Go for it. Yeah.
just just hammer down and go for it. Like there's no I haven't like gradually pushed and tested my limits. Like and and whereas like you could there's a limitation to what you could do on a set of hards,
Hmm.
and then you could graduate to a set of mediums, and then there's a limitation there, and then you would graduate to a set of softs. But to just go straight into softs and really be able to push that hard, like and it's kind of dangerous and a little irresponsible on the part of the team.
I mean,
On
this
the part of
guy's
the
a
team.
professional race car driver.
I mean, he is, but at the same time, the kid just turned 18.
Yeah, but he's been karting since he's a baby. Like I don't know. You
But
know the limits of mechanical grip. This guy, and I think
but not in the F1 car.
you're
Like
right.
you've been
Fair.
not in that F1 car.
Yeah.
We also have to remember like he's been practicing
In
like in
Formula One
like some
cars, like the
older in
older,
Formula
yeah.
One cars, the older like Mercedes
Hmm.
cars. But now you actually have a Mercedes car that can drive
Yeah.
and looks pretty good. Like I for him, no matter how you slice it, it was a graduation for him. Like it to be put into George Russell's car.
Yeah.
And like, and I don't blame the kid because like I feel like you spent this whole time and everybody's talking to you. Like you're trying to ball out like LeBron. Like
Mhm.
like you out there and you're just like, I'm gonna go ham.
Yeah.
And you know what? He full send into Parabolica.
Yeah.
And what happened what should happen happened. And he spun out, lost rear grip,
Yeah.
and Ippy, that was it.
That was it.
And I'm just like, I kind of wish they hadn't done that because I would have loved to have seen him for a longer time,
Yeah.
like during that session. I wanted him to have a full session,
My
like just a full session. But
my conspiracy
I
theory
guess,
there was Toto was like, hey, go out there, rip off a couple fast laps, come in. Everyone's going to be like, wow, look how fast this kid is. And then we're going to name you as the new driver.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
instead, he goes too hard, way
mhm,
too soon. No one else is going that fast yet and exceeds
mhm,
mechanical grip levels and then just goes off the track,
yeah.
safety car style or pace car style. And right into the wall. He was
Oh
okay,
man,
but yeah, a little egg on the face of Mercedes. And I mean,
definitely.
there's a long history of very talented Formula One drivers doing this. I think Max
Hmm.
Verstappen was known for doing this the first time in the car. So that just means he has the gusto and he wants to go for it. But yeah,
Yeah,
probably not how he wanted his first outing to go. But he's going to have many more. It sounds like.
yeah, not definitely not at all. Like I said, I'm more worried about like who's going to be the guy that's who's going to be the person that's going to be there for him.
Hmm.
Like, at a certain point of time, um, at a certain point in time, Hamilton had Lauda,
Hmm.
and you know what? Like, I'm just wondering who's going to be that voice, who's going to be that person for for Kimmy.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, and once again, I'm not saying this to say anything about George Russell. I honestly feel next year George Russell is going to be too busy trying to keep his Mercedes seat to spend time teaching a young rookie to be better. I'm and I'm saying that I'm looking at like all the different I'm looking at how the team is trying to jump on Max Verstappen if a possibility is there.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly thinking like the only thing George Russell is going to be focused on next year is how do I keep my seat here at Mercedes
I mean,
and like prove to the team that I am worth keeping a seat. So
yeah.
I that's definitely not going to be the person who's going to help him out. So
Right. And who knows? Maybe with Kimmy and George Russell on the same team, Antonelli and Russell, I mean, maybe we're just going to see the Mercedes team just play hero ball. Like you saw George Russell in Monza this weekend. He went for moves that he probably shouldn't have gone for. Had to take
yep,
the run off a bunch of times. He's always scratching and crawling. We saw where
yep,
he went for that one stop on the last race or two races ago before the break.
yeah,
He's willing to try things and go for things that
yeah,
maybe not more conservative drivers will do. And hey,
yeah.
maybe we're going to see just like a very entertaining Mercedes team where we have two drivers really going for it, maybe going
Listen,
above their skill level or
I'm
grip level. Could be
listen.
fun.
I'm gonna be a 75-25 Ferrari fan next year. But I do not want the soundtrack from Mercedes to be.
Yeah,
I
well, they're
don't
not going to
want
have
that.
Mesa Spin on their team, so
Oh,
we'll be all right.
okay.
But
So
so that was just even practice. But I guess
yeah,
qualifying. What do you think? It wasn't that crazy of a qualifying. I'd say
no,
if anything, good job for Alex Albon, and then getting into Q3 again.
and Nico getting
Oh
in
yeah,
there as
Nico
well.
Hulkenberg doing great.
Yeah,
But
and then the top four teams were the top four teams.
exactly, top four
Mhm,
teams were
yeah,
top four. Probably
but
that worst case scenario for Max Verstappen in terms of qualifying,
mhm, yeah,
and best case scenario for McLaren.
for McLaren, yeah, it was the perfect setup.
Right.
It is actually exactly. I think you messaged me like
Oh yeah,
afterward.
right.
You were like, "Dag, Ricardo, it is exactly what I
It
talked about
was
the
it
week
was your
before."
your one your 2717 dream of
Dream,
when we were
yeah,
talking about last week, where I was like, I don't see Red Bull losing this championship, and you said, well, if Lando Norris gets first or second, and Max Verstappen's in seventh or eighth, it's possible. And
it's
here we
possible.
were after qualifying with Lando in first and on pole and Max Verstappen in seventh. And I
Yeah,
was like,
and
yeah, I
yet,
texted you. I was like, oh, wow, your dreams are coming
yeah.
true.
Listen, it doesn't have to take like a miracle. All you need is a couple outings like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in some great qualifying by Lando Norris, who, by the way, I think is 14-2 to Oscar Piastri. Some ridiculous qualifying number. He's definitely outpacing him qualifying wise by a mile. But it's 1-2. You had Lando first place. Um, you had Piastri second, and then you had George Russell there in third.
Yep. And
And
Leclerc in
like by
fourth.
when qualifying, Leclerc in four. By the time qualifying was done, I'm just like, this is this may be an easy 10, 15 point swing for Lando this week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because there's no guarantee that that Red Bull is going to solve this. Like, and I think it's Park Ferme after qualifying. So they ended up with a duck. They're going to be starting with a duck.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is great. This is really good. This is exactly what the drivers' championship needed. Problem is, I'm still questioning what it is that McLaren actually wants out of all of this.
Yeah. And
And yeah,
that brings us to the race, right? And I think before we start talking about McLaren and everything that happened with them, and I think they're definitely the elephant on the grid after a race like this, we should probably still celebrate what happened in Monza with Ferrari.
listen,
Let's give it up for them a little bit.
listen. Leclerc showing how a one stopper should be done.
Yeah.
Though I have to wonder, like, was there any? I I thought about this. I was like, if the FIA says they were going to weigh Charles Leclerc's car, I think they would have been assassinated by some Italian mobsters,
Well, he
like before they even got out there.
did you
Like
notice
this,
he
if
did a
they
second he did a second cool down lap to get more rubber just in case,
listen,
just
just in
after
case,
George Russell.
just in
Yeah,
case. I don't blame him.
yeah,
I don't blame him. He like, just in case you guys decide, of all places, like, that's the type of town, like, if you're a referee and you make a bad call, you just want to slowly get into the bushes and disappear.
the Homer
That's not the
Simpson.
place
Yeah,
where the Homer Simpson me. Like, you don't want to catch yourself trying to question this. But it was an inspired drive.
yeah,
It was
absolutely.
beautiful racing. I mean, Charles really took advantage of like every opportunity that came out there. Even when it seemed like they made a mistake, it actually ended up, in terms of when they pitted, it
Right.
actually ended up working for him in the long run. I mean, they Ferrari had a wonderful race, great like strategizing. I mean, there's a good chance Carlos could have snuck in on the podium as well, but he spent some time um, defending Oscar and kind of sealing the deal for Leclerc.
Yeah, he was great, just
It,
teamwork wise too. It really
yeah,
that's how a
it
team is supposed to operate.
yes, yeah, yeah, yes. Thank you, Ferrari, for showing that. Thank you. Um, for the greater good,
Right.
for the greater good. So,
And Carlos did
yeah,
it in multiple ways. So he actually, and going back to the pit stop thing, it was early in the race. It was I think before the race, people were talking about, is this a one stop race or a two stop race? Generally, Monza is
mhm,
a one stop race, but you had a new surface laid down before this weekend, and it was a really hot weekend, so people were unsure of like whether the tires were actually going to maintain. Um,
mhm.
Lando pit early, so assuming everybody understands what happened in this race, but Lando gave up the lead, and there was some battling between the McLarens, which led
Which we're
to
gonna get into.
which
We're gonna
yeah,
get
which
into.
led to Lando getting a little bit squirrely coming out of turn four, which
Hmm.
then gave Leclerc the position. So then it became Oscar, Leclerc, Lando as the top three. Um,
Hmm.
and so McLaren's trying to figure out a way to get Lando back up into the 1-2 spot. And they pit him on lap 15 to undercut Leclerc, who then pits to try to make up that spot, and then comes out behind Lando still.
Mhm.
So the pit strategy for Ferrari didn't seem to be working. Leclerc's on the radio.
Like, why the hell did we pit right
Like, what are
afterwards?
we doing? And in my mind, I'm going, this is the most Ferrari thing. You have
Mhm.
Leclerc yelling about a pit stop. I would think under Fred Vasseur, like these things would get figured out. They would have better data. They would know what's going on.
Mhm.
But it seemed like this is typical Ferrari stuff, and it's happening in Monza when they're supposed to
Mhm.
win. But Sainz didn't pit. Sainz stayed out, um, and he was able to collect, I think, some interesting data on the tires and their degradation that other teams like McLaren, Mercedes, everyone else that was pitting at that same time weren't doing. And that, I think, that gave them a little bit of the understanding of, hey, we can go longer on these tires than people are expecting right now, and uh, that gave them the wherewithal to do the one stop. And
Yep.
then Sainz helped again by defending against Oscar to help win the race. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Amazing race for Ferrari. Amazing race for Carlos. I mean, not Carlos Sainz. For Charles
For
Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc.
If you're Charles Leclerc and you know you're not going to win the drivers' championship this year, if you were to pick two races to win, Monaco and Monza, I'd
Yeah.
retire. I'm just done. If I'm
Yeah.
him, you're good.
Look, he could finish like 6, 7, or 8
Yeah,
for the rest of the year, and off of those two alone, like he's good.
he could
He's
do
oh,
the Freaky Friday talent swap with Checo Perez and
yep,
just be terrible for the rest of the year. And yeah, I would still be, if I'm him, so happy with winning
yep,
those two races. Good job.
yeah,
Be very pumped.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, he raced. He had an amazing race. He deserved to win. He he it was just an inspiring race.
Yeah,
Like, he
absolutely.
really nursed the heck out of those tires. And if you look at his stint times, I don't think he deviated from 123.
Yeah, he was
Like,
even at the end of the race, like lap 50, 51, 52. Even though Oscar was catching up to him, he was still only like
yeah,
point 0.2 off his like fastest pace. So he was
yeah,
working those tires
consistent.
right.
The most consistent stint I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why, like, even though some may say, you know what, he kind of got helped with some of McLaren's follies for that second stint, like, he proved that he deserved that win. And I was happy to see it, like just to see the crowd like super happy.
Oh,
Like, I know Lewis is sitting there like, damn, like, even Silverstone
yeah.
doesn't go ham like this. Like, I can't wait for this next year. Like, that's the thing. Like, the Ferrari fans, when you like are successful, love you.
I mean,
Love you. All the support.
you could hear the fans through the broadcast, which is a rare thing. And
Yep.
you could tell, like, all of a sudden when the fans started realizing, like, the people in the stands were like, oh, we're in lap 40 now. Are they doing a one stop? Are they going to
Yep.
actually just pull this off by just controlling tire degradation? They
Yep.
would the wave of sound kept building up and building up. So by the time it was like lap 51, 52, 53, yeah, that was cool. I actually got my Ferrari hat back here. I literally on like lap 45 like put it on and was like standing up and just watching the race. I
Yeah.
was like, I hope he pulls this off. I hope he pulls it off. He did.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yep.
awesome.
He definitely did. It was awesome. Well deserved. And you know what? We're gonna start talking about McLaren, but definitely want to reiterate, like, Charles Leclerc deserved to win this race.
Yeah.
He drove the heck out of that car. He put himself in a good position to win. He took the opportunities that came to for him as a competitor to another team. I want to clarify that. Like, he took the opportunities against another team.
Yeah.
Deb, just wanted to clarify that.
Right.
Quick. Not just he took all the opportunities in front. He took the opportunities as compared to another team.
And
When another team made a mistake,
right.
he took that
And him and
opportunity,
his
as he
teammate were
should.
sharing data. They were
Yes.
racing together. Carlos
Yes.
Sainz slowed down a little bit to just block off someone to help his teammate achieve his goal. It
Yep.
was really cool to see that in Formula One because I think,
Yep.
as we're about to talk about, Some other teams aren't doing that right now.
Yeah, no. So I think it's time to start talking about McLaren.
We need to have a talk.
We need to have a talk. We need to have a talk. To one individual that I am a big fan of, and I think the way he sees just racing. Like he's been an announcer when it comes to racing for a long time. He has a lot of history in the sport, and when he says something, I take it like I really take like heart to it, and I'm just like, okay, that's a point of view that I find very interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like makes sense.
Who's this?
Will Buxton.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So after the race, like I watched the post race, have F1 as you have the subscription, so
Mm-hmm.
they have the post race, and I've rarely seen Will Buxton really just pole pit, and this guy was pole pitting hard,
Yeah.
and it's around the late 20s mark in the post race the, their post race coverage,
I did watch this
and
after you were telling me about it. He was beside himself.
he was beside himself, and he just went in on how he doesn't understand what the heck McLaren is doing right now, and the idea that they're not prioritizing someone who has a better chance, it just doesn't make sense to him. And initially, and we're going to start talking about some of the things that happened in the race. All I have to say for now is initially my anger was pointed towards Piastri, but then I realized being angry at Piastri is like being angry at a kindergarten kid who just doesn't know any better. I should be more angry at the teacher or the person that is letting this happen.
Absolutely.
And in this instance, that's McLaren. And I'm just going to start us off with a quote directly from what Will Buxton said.
Okay.
He says, Lando wanted to be selfish and hungry, and they said, give it back to Oscar because you're going to need him if you want to win the world championship this year. Well, he needed him today, and he passed him. Will Buxton. Those lines perfectly describe this whole situation. We're going to start off with the Piastri move.
Okay.
In my opinion, brilliant move, great move, absolutely terrible time to pull it off. Terrible time to put it off. Like the worst possible time to put it off. The level of risk in that move shows me one, it proves the fact that Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris are in completely two different like situations. And that's why it's really hard to apply rules to both of them when they're in two completely different situations. You could put a rule out there saying whatever these papaya rules are. You could put a rule out there saying, "Hey, you guys just race, you know, don't hit each other, be careful,
Yeah.
but just race." That you have to understand is ingested by completely differently by those two drivers.
Yeah. So what's how would you describe those different situations they're in?
Oscar Piastri has nothing to lose.
Yeah. He drives like that too.
Nothing to
Yeah.
lose. And statistically, nothing to lose. He's had a great second year campaign. He has a good car under him. He has absolutely nothing to lose. And the chance of him winning the drivers' championship, the distance between him and Max, is a Grand Canyon,
Yeah.
really. It would require not only for Max not to be racing really good, but then Lando Norris to kind of fall to the wayside. And if those two things happen, you still have Charles Leclerc back there who could still make a run.
Yeah.
If you're gonna say that Oscar has an opportunity,
No, he's more than 100 points behind Max at this point.
Max.
Yeah.
So he has nothing to lose and everything to gain. He gains the look of him being the better driver. He gains the the idea that, you know what, this isn't a 1-2. This is truly a 1-1, and I may be the one.
Hmm.
He gains all those things. While on the other side, Lando Norris has everything to lose. Everything to lose.
Right.
The potential opportunity to win a drivers' championship, which doesn't come around often. You got to understand, Lando's been driving since in Formula One since 2019. It's 5 years later, and he has and after this race, even before this race, you could say a pretty good chance, better opportunity here than what we thought 3 or 4 races ago. So the opportunity is there
Hmm.
to win the drivers' championship. Now you have those two situations, and those two situations will then be perfectly reflected in how these individuals drive. If you look at where Oscar Piastri decides to make that move on Lando Norris, and there's a perfect view. There's a 360 camera in front of Lando's car.
Hmm.
If you see where Lando decides to brake and where Oscar decides to brake, it's a perfect representation of those two mentalities.
Yeah. So
Lando
it's
Lando breaks early
right. So we're talking about
to
going
make.
into this. This is turn 4.
Doesn't he pass him on turn 2?
No, so this is where turn 2 is where everything starts, because
Starts.
turn 2 is like the second part of the chicane, right? So
Yeah.
there's the initial lap, the initial start. You're going hard into turn 1. You have to brake really
Mhm.
hard. There's a chicane. The second part of the chicane is turn 2, and if you see
2,
that
and then turn 4.
Lando gets loose in turn
Yes.
2, so his entry
Yes.
speed into turn 3 isn't what it should be, and that
Yeah.
that allows Oscar to get to his side. And they're supposed to be
But
playing this fan game where they're blocking
yeah.
out Leclerc and whoever. But then you're right. So now we're going into turn 4, which is another hard left
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
another chicane, basically.
Okay. So you're getting into that turn. Look at the video from Lando's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
He breaks early
Yeah.
because all of a sudden you see Piastri slightly behind him, and within a split second you see him just jump ahead of
Oh
him
yeah.
in terms of going from slightly to the side, and all of a sudden he's in front
No,
of him.
he he
So
he
Lando's
late braked
breaking.
like crazy on that.
Yes,
Yeah.
on that one. So Lando is basically saying, like, you know what? Little spin back there. I just want to make this turn good. The last thing I'm expecting,
Mm-hmm.
the last thing I'm expecting is for my teammate, quote unquote teammate, to be coming around the outside to get past me.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what happens.
Right.
And I know so many people are sitting here like, oh, that's hard racing. That's what it's supposed to be. Everybody, no, no. You know when that's hard racing? When that's Lando Norris versus Charles Leclerc. You know when that's hard racing? When that's Lando Norris versus Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
You know when it's not supposed to be hard racing?
Yeah, when it's
In that
your
particular
teammate. But
situation,
it's actually
when it's your
it's
teammate.
fun that you bring that up about, like, if that was Max late braking on Lando, or if that was Leclerc late braking on Lando. It wouldn't be the same situation, because
No.
now Lando is in this position of, okay, I have to give up my space because I'm going to collide with my teammate otherwise, because
Yeah.
he's clearly just taking the line, and now I have to back off. And you see Lando gets loose again,
Yep.
trying to save it. If it was
True.
Max or Leclerc or Lewis Hamilton, you would have forced that outside driver, that person in Piastri's situation, to then make an evasive maneuver and take the runoff. But he
Yeah.
didn't do that.
Yeah.
He gave his teammates space. Again,
Base.
kind of like he did a couple races ago, where he had to give up his
Exactly.
spot to Oscar.
Exactly. But it doesn't even just start there. If it's Lando and Lando is starting a race and he's getting to that turn with Max Verstappen, knowing
Mm-hmm.
that either Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, or whoever is right behind him, going into the turn, Coming down that straight,
Yeah.
he already has it in his mind to be in a defensive mode.
Right. He's not chilling on the brakes like he was on this go around.
On this turn.
Yeah.
He's already. That's why, for all the talk about how great of a move this was
Mm-hmm.
by Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris kind of allowed this move to happen.
Well, because he wasn't expecting it.
He wasn't expecting it. If it's anybody else, Lando Norris is putting on the defensive maneuvers on this move.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's the thing that's so frustrating right now. Well, all these people are talking about how great of a move this was. Oh, such a ballsy move for a bold move for Oscar Piastri. It's not really a bold move. You're making a move on your teammate who is not expecting you to make that move at
Yeah.
all in that particular place.
It's
That's not bold. You know what's bold? Making that move on Max Verstappen, who may potentially shove you out to the
yeah,
side.
Max will take you
You know
both out
what's
in that
bold?
moment.
But pick you both out. You know what's bold? Making that move on a younger Lewis Hamilton, or making that move on even Carlos Sainz,
Right.
with them fully knowing you there. What you did to Lando Norris, there's no boldness about it. I'm sorry. I don't care who says, "Oh, Ricardo, you're crazy for thinking about it." You have to think about the situation and the setup behind
Yeah.
this. It is not a bold move. It
It's
is
bold in this way. He knew Oscar Piastri knew that Lando Norris would blink. That's where,
yes,
and so he was bold
yes,
enough to be like, "Screw you, Lando. I'm taking this,"
exactly.
and he did
But it's yep, and it's not bold in terms of real will to will racing.
because they're
It's not.
teammates, right? Like they're
They're teammates. It's not.
yeah,
It's not. I don't care who comes to me and talks about how bold of a move it was, how great of a move. You can't take that move and put it in a vacuum. There's too many other things going on for you to do that. That move is allowed because of that specific
it
situation.
was pretty to watch
The
though.
there's no doubt about
Yeah.
that. There's no doubt about that. Like the replays of that move are pretty awesome.
Mhm.
And they'd be even more awesome if the two colors of those cars were completely different.
Yeah.
I would highlight it as this amazing move, to around the outside against the competitor.
Did you see the Nico Rosberg interview with Zach Brown after the race?
Oh man, Nico went in,
And
and I
you
loved
know
it.
why Nico went in is because he's been in this situation before. Like,
Yep.
so there's this idea that McLaren keeps saying we have two number ones, we have two guys that are both number ones. We're going to let them race. This papaya rules nonsense, which I swear, if we have to say papaya rules for the rest of the season, I
It's
don't know what I'm going to do with myself. But it's
so
just like,
people.
right.
It's very cringy. People have been saying it's
It's,
very cringy. It actually is very cringy.
yeah. Okay.
I'd
So
rather just say orange rules.
Mc, McLaren team rules are you're
Yep.
supposed to race cleanly and be respectful, but you guys can race. We have no clear number one, even though Lando Norris is ahead in the points and actually has a potential lifetime opportunity to win a drivers' championship. Even though I don't really think
Yep.
it's fully in the cards, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you're still whatever. You guys race. So that opens the door for Oscar Piastri to be bold, as we're talking about, make the bold
Mhm.
move on his teammate, knowing his teammate is fighting for a championship, knowing like he's
Yep.
not going to want to crash out here. He's going to give me
Yeah.
this space. And Nico
And
Rosberg, who did this with Lewis Hamilton for years, that PTSD, that residual pain, that
mhm.
that trauma that he's feeling
Yeah.
inside, it's there, and he took it out
Yeah.
on Zach Brown because he's like,
As he should. As he
he's
should.
basically like,
Go
dog,
ahead.
dude, do something. You're
Yeah.
gonna ruin this relationship between these two drivers. The team is gonna turn into turmoil, and
Yeah.
you're giving away any shot that Lando Norris has at a drivers' championship right now
Yeah.
because you're unwilling to say, Oscar, let this guy who took pole, let him stay in the top position.
Yeah. And here's the crazy thing. People keep like keep trying to say that this is them saying that, oh, Oscar is should let him win. It's not let him win. It's now that we're in this position, you're now going to work as a team
Mm-hmm.
for the greater goal of the world championship, which means you don't try to come up around the outside on your teammate. You you tuck up behind him and fend off the competitors. So here's what I find is the most hilarious thing about this.
Mhm.
For all of that, Oscar Piastri gained no places, and Lando lost two.
Yeah.
For all of that, for that move, that ends up with, and that's a perfect representation of their relationship. Lando has nothing. Oscar has nothing to lose,
Mhm.
and he lost nothing. While Lando has everything to lose, and he lost two places. If that isn't a perfect representation of what is currently going, I don't know what else is.
Yeah.
It just shows you why this, I think, is driving a lot of people within the sport crazy. Because I'm not mad at Oscar.
Me
Because
neither.
until the adult in the room comes to him and
Mhm.
says, "Hey, dude, cool, you trying to make a name for you, not right for yourself, not right now,
This is what
not right now."
happens in Formula One, right? Like in there's the rules, there's the regulations. It's people will exploit to the very limit of what they're allowed to do. They're competitors,
Yep.
that's what they're supposed to do. So until his team principal says, hey, stop racing your teammate, he's going to race his teammate and do what's
Teammate.
best for
Yep.
him. And there's
Him.
nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. And that's what he's
Yeah.
doing. It's just to the detriment of Lando Norris, to the detriment
And
of anyone challenging Max Verstappen, to the detriment
yep.
of McLaren as an organization.
Yeah. And that's why it's so frustrating, because McLaren has to be the adult in the room.
Hmm.
They have to be, because you have one driver who's taking McLaren rules to mean, oh, I he's not just taking it to mean like, oh, if there's an opportunity somewhere in the race. No, you know what he's taking it as? Any whiff I get of potentially getting in front of this man,
Hmm.
I'm going to take it. And it's not regular racing, because the man you're going against has so much more to lose than you.
Yeah. You,
Compare this to when Verstappen and Lando both punted each other out of a race. Guess what? At that time, that's not crazy to happen for Lando and Verstappen,
right.
because it's a lose-lose in both sides. Max doesn't gain, Lando doesn't gain. So Lando has no problem really like sticking himself in there to be like, I'm not going to budge. But if now you're going to put him in a situation where he's going against his own teammate and maybe DNF'd to watch Verstappen get a whole bunch of points that he's no longer has access to, that's what is so frustrating about this. The math is simple. The math is straightforward. I don't know why McLaren are acting like the math is complex. It is not. It's simple math.
They're just working off of
You
the Excel sheets from Williams.
Dude, you have an opportunity to get the drivers championship, especially with how that Red Bull car is looking right now.
Yeah.
If you're not the adults in the room to basically say, listen, like, Oscar, I know you're trying to make a name for yourself. These are great opportunities, whatever. But the overall goal of the team right now is, we have a constructors championship that we could pretty much lock down,
Hmm.
but we also have an opportunity at the drivers championship. And here's the crazy thing. It's not even like they're saying, yo, if Lando is like 5 cars behind you, let him pass you. Lando got pole.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Lando got pulled and proved himself in qualifying. The team is just saying, don't challenge your teammate.
Yeah.
Your teammate has more to gain in these situations. Not just that, he has more to lose. And the crazy thing is, right now, Oscar is taking you know what part of that sentence Oscar is taking? He's not listening to the your teammate has more to gain. He's listening to the part that says your teammate has more to lose.
Hmm.
Because then he translate that as, oh, well, you know what that means? I could try funny business with him. And guess what? He's going to back out every single
You
time,
know what's fun?
because he can't risk something happening. So I'm gonna try funny business with him every single time because I know he can't take the risk.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna look good doing it because people are gonna say, "Oh, what an amazing move!" But it's not because your teammate cannot take those risks that you are taking.
Yeah. It's before this race, before Monza, before the actual main event, after qualifying, they interviewed Oscar, just asking him, what are your thoughts on second? How you feeling? He had a similar answer to, was it Budapest when he got his first win? He had a similar answer then after qualifying, where he was like, "It's a long run to turn one. Anything can happen."
Yeah.
Basically, Oscar knows what he's doing, and again, it's
Yes.
within his bounds. But I
Yeah.
think going forward, if we see a 1-2 McLaren starting grid, and you hear Oscar Piastri say something sneaky like that after qualifying, it's going to be a fun thing to pay attention to for
Yeah.
the next 8 races.
Yeah. And it's I think a lot of this, and people have made this point, a lot of this is from the book of Mark Webber. A lot of this is from the book of Mark Webber. And and I'm sorry, like people would be like, "Oh, you putting too much towards this kid." No, like you said, he knows exactly what he's doing. Exactly what he's doing.
And it's within his
What
right.
does it cost? And it's everything is right. What does it cost Oscar Piastri right now to not back off against Lando Norris? Nothing.
Right.
Because if Lando pushes, let's say they're going down a straight, and Oscar's trying to come around the right or left side, and Lando squeezes him out, but Oscar decides not to back down. Guess what's going to happen? You know what people are going to say? Well, why is Lando being impatient? He has a lot more to fight for.
Right.
There's a long race. That's not where you go and make your battles. You wait a longer time. But the funny thing is, that's not what people are saying about Oscar right now.
Yeah. No, because
People are saying like, "Oh, that's a great move. Oh, the perfect thing that happened. He's showing just how much better he is than Lando Norris." No, he's not. He's not there yet. I'm sorry.
I mean,
To all those people who think to all those people who think he's better, I can't here's why I can't look at this year and take that because they are fighting for two completely different things. Maybe earlier on in the year, maybe.
yeah.
But if you're talking about the last 4 or 5 races, their situations are already completely changed. They're already in different
That's
mindsets.
just because of
They're
the
already going
point
for
thing.
different
But
things.
I don't know. They're
Yeah,
both
that's just
competitive
because of the point
racers.
thing.
There's a reason why McLaren's saying we have 2 number ones. This
Yeah.
is Oscar's second season. I do see a potential situation where the reason they're saying they have 2 number ones is because they really look at Oscar as the number one. And it
Yeah.
just so
Listen.
happens that Lando has had a consistent start of the season, and now the car's
uh,
fast, and we're seeing how
Yeah.
they're both doing.
Listen, if I'm being completely honest, if if McLaren doesn't fix this, one as Lando Norris, I'm really regretting my decision to stay with this team. I'm really regretting
I
it.
mean, his whole race,
When they could have
this whole race was
when
you could tell he was shook. I mean, even like
yeah,
that late first pit with like, hey, pit now, and like he hits the bollard, like he was
Psycho.
making
Like how grimy is that? They literally told him to pit like 100 yards away from the pit lane entrance. Like the man just came off Parabolica,
yeah,
and you're telling, "Oh yeah, pit now." So of course he's diving into the pits,
yeah.
and he has to brake late. Like that's some BS. That's why like, and that's why like I feel, and it's sad. At this point in time, I want Lando to just be like, "F it," and like no holes barred. I don't care anymore. Forget team papaya rules. Forget it. If that boy comes around the outside, I'm punting him into the grass, and I'm putting my foot down and saying, "Hey, I'm the number one."
Well, the funny part
But
is,
he's not going to do it. He can't. He can't take that risk, and he's not going to. That's
yeah,
because the sad thing is, in some part of his mind, he probably still thinks the team is going to do the right thing.
yeah.
And the more time passes, the more I think they're not.
No, it's
I
clearly not.
honestly,
If I mean, maybe after this race, because of how aggressive that, and Zach Brown called it aggressive, like how
yeah,
aggressive that that move was from Oscar on Lando. Like maybe they do have a talk and actually reset the boundaries of McLaren team
Mhm.
rules. But I highly doubt it, and I think they're
Yeah,
just they're playing with two left feet right now, and
yeah,
they're missing the forest for the trees.
yeah. And honestly, I feel like because more people are saying they're not doing what we're supposed to do, they seem like the type of team that will put their foot in the ground and
Mm-hmm.
be like, "Yes, we are,"
Yeah,
and double down on what they're
double
doing.
down and bet on
Like they,
yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, they seem like that type of team. They don't seem like the type of team that will take all this data in and what everybody is saying and say, you know what, people may be right. Like we really have a chance at the drivers' championship. Let's do what we have to make to at least help Lando get there.
Hmm.
But they honestly seem like a team that's just like, no, like you guys don't know what you're talking about. We know what we're talking about. Shut up, because you don't know what we're talking about. We're doing the right thing, and you guys don't make no sense. I don't care. What's the saying where like if if you're calling everyone else crazy, you're the crazy one?
Yeah,
Like
I get
it-
you.
that's the moment like they should be having right now. But it's probably an echo chamber in there where everybody is saying we're doing the right thing, and no one is actually waking up and saying and seeing that you're not. So we've talked about that move. We talked about papaya rules. I mean, I mean, you had all this happen, and once again, for all this, Oscar loses nothing, and Lando loses multiple points that he could have had,
Yeah.
which I think is a perfect snapshot of what's currently happening right now. Um, but we'll jump into some of the technical things. Later on in the race, they were seeing like their tire wear um, wasn't as they wanted to. One interesting aspect of that a lot of people are not talking about is because they were actually racing pretty hard, and there was a sense that what, once again, this non-team idea,
Hmm.
Lando's trying to get back up there to um, to Oscar, and probably wearing out that tire a lot more than he wanted to. Oscar's trying to stay ahead of Lando and probably wearing that tire a lot more than he
Yeah.
wanted to. And you basically have Charles Leclerc coming up the back like beep 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 and 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 just taking advantage
Yeah.
of that.
Oh, and you also
So
have Lando the whole time looking at Max Verstappen and understanding
yeah,
where position he's in. Because at one point they're in staggered positions where I think Max hadn't pitted yet, but Lando had, and they're basically
mhm,
racing each other and they're getting defensive against
yeah,
each other. But knowing, once they all pit, like it would sort itself out. But they were still fighting each other
yeah,
because they know each person's
yeah,
position counts.
yeah. And even if Max is going to pit, like if Max can like hold Lando back for just a few more seconds, if he could just hold him back that's a potential
Yeah,
position or
exactly,
two that
exactly.
he's not able to get
Right.
on him. So like it I I, I really feel for Lando Norris. Cause like if I'm him right now, I honestly feel like it's me against the world. I do.
Hmm.
because I don't feel like my team is on my side. My teammate for sure is not on my side. The public, at least half of it, is not on my side because they're like, "Oh, this is just fair racing," and if you want to win, you know what? You should just be racing better, and you should just pass Oscar Piastri.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. Like, stop complaining. It's as simple as that. Just race better than him. And I'm sitting there like, okay, cool. You could say that, but there's so much. There are so many other things that are part of that. Like, whereas Oscar is doing simple math, like Lando is constantly doing like higher level math
Hmm.
every single race. Like, and he has to. Because every decision he makes, every turn he makes, every potential fumble, everything may play into whether he could catch up to Max Verstappen or not.
Yeah.
and where you would hope that his team would help him with this higher math, they're actually making the whole math more difficult,
They are.
which is
They
just,
are.
oh, like I feel for him. I feel for him right now.
Is there any
Like,
other things we should be talking about McLaren wise, or do we want to talk about Mr. Verstappen?
I guess the last thing probably is just like we. It's interesting the question you asked me before we started the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, where you were like, after everything, do you think that they should have switched positions like towards the end of the race? And I was just like, no,
Yeah.
no. And I think you agreed as well. We're way past that.
Right. The
We're
the
way
thought
past that.
is, okay, you guys raced, you gave up first place. Second and third from a team perspective doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
Uh, why not swap drivers on that last lap and
yeah,
give increase that or reduce that point
yeah,
differential between Max and Lando? I don't think you could do it. I think
yeah,
Oscar was still in the hunt at that point to actually
yeah.
cut down Lando. So
And
I
honestly,
agree.
like if the team came to me with that BS, if
at
I'm
that point,
Lando,
yeah, at that point,
at that point, I'm like, I would literally just, I was like, shut the f up.
yeah,
Like, come on.
right.
Like at this point, like, get the hell out of here. Like you know what? I needed this on the first lap. Like, get the hell out of here with
Hmm.
that BS. Like, if the team even had the balls to come up to Lando Norris at the end of the race to say that, like, I would just be like, get the hell out of here with
Yeah.
that. Like, leave me with that mess. I'm gonna take third position. It's just you guys didn't give a damn about me at the beginning of the race,
Hmm.
and so why should I give a damn like now? No,
Right.
I actually want it to stick. I want the final result to be Oscar Piastri 2, me in 3. I want y'all to see what the hell you guys caused because I started this race in
Burn
pole.
it down, Ricardo.
Yeah, like burn it. I'm just like like honestly, I like at this point in time, like if I'm Lando, I'm just like I almost wish that as just a fan, there was a part of me that where the drivers championship maybe wasn't as close as it is, because then I think it would allow Lando Norris to open up a bit
Hmm.
and actually just be an asshole because he needs to be. I think if he can't be an asshole now, he's got to be an asshole at the beginning of the next
Yeah,
season. There's
I
no
hear you.
there's no doubt on the face of it. Like he needs to become a Max Verstappen at the beginning of next. Like he needs to just be a no holds barred. Like I don't care.
So,
I don't care. You guys don't want me to be number one. Guess what? I'm just gonna be number one.
so speaking of
Like I'm
speaking of number ones, speaking of assholes, speaking of driver championships, speaking of being frustrated with your team and your position
Ooh.
and looking at that driver's championship, how are you feeling right now if you're Max Verstappen, who
I think
finished in
he he
sixth for this race?
he he summed it up perfectly during the race, where he was on the radio like, "Hey, y'all up?
Oh,
Are y'all
yes.
up?
I
Like,
took note of
are y'all
this
still
too.
paying?
Yeah,
Are y'all still paying attention?
right.
Like, I need you guys to still
He
pay
was like literally
attention to
like,
him."
"Hello, we need to think about the
And
person
look,
behind me too. Like, what's happening?"
it's so interesting to hear that from Max, from his perspective,
Hmm.
to where like it's no longer, oh yeah, I'm just gonna get a fast lap because I want
Hmm.
to have him counting points
Yeah,
mentally. That's what he was
he's thinking
doing.
about it.
He was
Absolutely.
he was doing the math in his head, and he realized every single place. Like, yo, what's going on with George Russell? Does it look like he's coming up behind
Right.
me? What's going on? What's going
Right.
on? Like I just got that may be a potential another thing I could do. Like, where's this? He's doing the math because he has to now.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I think his team, and it's showing in some of the long pit stops, some of the mistakes. Like
Yeah, he had
his
a
team has
6 second
been,
pit stop, which this is
yeah,
a team that was throwing down 1.9s, 2.2s
yeah,
like it was nothing all season, and now all of a sudden they're flustered and
the first, yeah. Like this is a team that's been sipping champagne for the last 2 years,
the hangover
and,
setting in.
and now the hangover is setting in, and now they're just like, oh shoot, like oh we really have to think hard about
Yeah,
strategy now. It's like we have to think, oh shoot, like we have to start doing the math every single
yeah,
race.
yeah. It was lap
And
49. Max uh, clearly was like, "Hey, wake up, what's going on behind me?
Wake
I need
up.
to know what's happening
Yeah.
behind me."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it was honestly, as a fan, it was beautiful to
yeah,
see. It was beautiful to see the championship leader that uncomfortable, like that uncertain about his position. Like it shows if if McLaren wasn't sure about the effect they were having and the potential opportunity on the table, that radio message tells them everything they need to know.
yeah. I think I was a lot more confident about Red Bull going into this weekend,
Hmm.
coming out of last weekend, than I am leaving Monza. I don't.
Yeah.
In my mind, this is the team that has had the fastest car for the last couple of years. They've had the pit crew that gets stuff done. They've had really good race
Yep.
strategy. They have Max Verstappen. They are going to be fine.
Yeah.
But the sense of
They were the
urgency that we
they were
heard,
the fourth best car this weekend.
yeah,
The fourth.
yeah, exactly. And Max was not great in qualifying. I mean, you had like Lewis Hamilton saying like, "Oh, I suck at qualifying. I just need to be better." But Max was not good in qualifying. I think Q2 he was fine, but I mean, to not finish in the top 4 as Max Verstappen in race or qualifying,
Yeah.
that's not great. So
Yeah.
you can definitely sense the urgency in the he is counting points, and it's I don't know. Do you think something's wrong at Red Bull, or do you think this is just a matter of everybody else is caught up and now we have a competitive 8 team or eight car grid?
I think it's a bit of both. I think everything that Red Bull in the past just kind of swept under the rug or kind of just said, "Oh, we that's okay. Like we're still the fastest car."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that it's okay that Sergio Perez is that far away from Max. We still have the fastest car.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay that Adrian Newey left. We still have the fastest car. Like it's okay that there's a whole bunch of drama going on in
Right.
within Red Bull with Christian Horner and everybody, but it's okay. We still have the fastest car. What's happening now is because they don't have the fastest car, all those things are coming into play.
Right. The cracks are showing.
All those things are like the cracks are showing. You can't just cover them and act like they don't exist. All of those things are showing now. And I think it's beginning to really affect the team. And like this, I've never, in the years I've watched like Formula One, see such a dramatic changeover like towards the middle of a season.
Yeah. It's mid
Yeah.
season.
Like to mid season to literally go from we started the season thinking it was a fait accompli
Mm-hmm.
with Red
Not
Bull
just we,
to
every
everyone.
team. Zach Brown was talking about like I think we could go for second. Like
Yeah.
Ferrari was saying we could be competitive, uh, but everybody assumed the Red Bulls were going to dominate the whole season, and
Yep.
we're now at parity with eight races to go. I still think, especially with McLaren stepping on its own toes, that this is going to end up in Max's hands. I think it's going to be fun to watch how the rest of the season plays out. But uh, I think looking forward to 2025, not to skip ahead and not live in the present, but like especially losing Adrian Newey, who's potentially going to Aston Martin.
Hmm.
This is going to be a tall mountain for Max
Red
Verstappen
Bull.
to climb and for Red Bull to stay ahead. And man, so Kimi Antonelli is officially on Mercedes. We know that.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, there's no out clause where Max Verstappen all of a sudden becomes available and he ends up on the Mercedes team.
Yeah, listen,
I
listen.
haven't read the
I don't
contract.
know. I don't know what Toto. There's a saying.
Bless you.
Excuse me. There's like a thing going around that Toto literally has a contract on him at all times on the chance that Max Verstappen decides he wants to come to Mercedes.
I
Like if
mean,
I'm, yeah, if that's definitely one of those things. Sign him then, and then worry about the consequences later.
yeah.
Like
Well,
you lock in Max.
there's your mentor for Antonelli right there.
Woo-wee.
But yeah, I think that's obviously speculation on my part.
Yeah.
Red Bull, I think they're in a little bit of a valley, but I don't know. I think they're going to peak still. I think they got a lot ahead of them.
Yeah.
I'm I'm not even a Red Bull fan. Why am I defending them so much?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, you know what's there's a part of me that kind of wants them to peak later on in the season, like with like 3 races to
I
go,
mean, yeah, I
where they
was going
just
to
come
say how
back.
many races? It's not that many races
Yeah,
left.
like with like 3 races left. Like my ultimate goal is this: I either want Lando Norris to win drivers championship for the year,
Mm-hmm.
or I want McLaren to kick themselves in the behind at the end of the season because they effed up and let it slip away.
Yeah.
Those are the two. Those are the only two things I want at the end of the season.
Okay.
I don't want anything else but those two things because I feel like and I want them to sit there in front of the cameras and act like it doesn't matter and act like they don't realize the mistake they made.
Yeah.
And then I want next year them not to be the number one team and everyone else to be on par with them and they don't have a monster car. And then they realize the
That they
opportunity that they
missed.
let
Yeah.
slip away. They literally, it's so hilarious because they literally went from in one race. I remember them talking about like they all the opportunities we'll have. Like I think it was the race with Lando and Oscar,
Mm-hmm.
and them and the principal talking about, oh yeah, we'll have plenty of opportunities over the radio to Lando. We'll have plenty of opportunities. And I remember in that podcast we did, I was sitting there like, you cannot count on the future.
Right.
You cannot like you've got to strike while there's a possibility to strike now. You can't sit there and act like, oh yeah, this will come in the future. Oh, we're so dominant. Guess what? Red Bull thought that at the beginning of the year, and look what happened to them.
I mean, right. Look what happened. They're still in first. Max is still the statistical likely person to win the championship. So
But they're bleeding.
they are. They are.
They're like a stuck pig.
Yeah.
They are bleeding
They're gonna
right
have to
now,
limp this one home.
dude. It's I've just crazy. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm and all this talk. I literally am gonna like Jay Z says, like, and for all the rest of y'all haters, you only get 2 bars, like, and really right now Mercedes just gets 2 bars because they're like I was so unimpressed with their performance this weekend. Um, like 1 bar goes to George Russell. Like, dude, like you gotta chillax. Like
Yeah.
you've got to chillax, my guy. Like you opportunity. Like I know it may look like you're this close to being a Esteban Ocon in how you act. You're this close,
Oh
my
man.
friend. Like
That's a
I know,
hilarious thing to
dude.
say.
But you know exactly what I
Yeah.
mean when I say that.
Yeah.
Like opportunity, these opportunities that you're seeing, they don't like
Yeah. He
stop it.
just needs to
Like
think. I think the fog of racing gets to him and he needs to think clearly and
yes,
think cleanly because his racing gets sloppy. And
sloppy.
when you're fighting and you're getting brake checked by Checo, like, yeah, you're not in the right frame of
Yeah,
mind. You're trying to pass him
yeah,
in places you're not supposed to be passing in Monza.
yeah.
Yeah, not the best race. I do
Like
appreciate that about George a little bit about how he does go for it, but this
he
weekend
just
in
chooses
Monza,
like the
yeah,
worst
this weekend in
times.
Monza, most of the time I was like, George, what are you doing? What are you doing here?
What are you doing? Like and for all my love of Lewis Hamilton, if George Russell did not have that trait, he would probably be leading Lewis Hamilton by quite a few points. Because he consistently qualifies better than Lewis Hamilton, but fudges it up so much
Yeah.
during the race that's why Lewis now has a 36-point lead
Well,
ahead of him.
that's
And you know
the
me,
veteran
I
winner,
love
man.
me some. Listen, I love me some Lewis
Who
Hamilton.
doesn't?
Love me some Lewis Hamilton. But like a lot of what separates them is really just George just fudging up in some instances. And before next year, he's gonna need to fix that like pronto,
Clean it up.
my guy. Like you're about to become the elder statesman on that team, so clean it up.
Yeah.
Clean it up. You don't want Kimi Antonelli sitting there in the garage like, what is wrong with this dude?
Yeah. You
Like,
don't want him
oh,
pulling some Oscar Piastri stuff on you.
exactly, because he think he can.
But yeah,
But
not a great weekend for Mercedes, but they're still in the hunt.
uh,
They're still looking. Their
uh,
car looks good, but yeah, not
yeah,
their time. This was Ferrari's
not that
weekend.
time.
This was
Exactly.
Ferrari's opportunity to win, and they seized it and they took it. And this was
Mhm.
McLaren's chance to shine, and they showed up papaya.
Yeah, yeah. By all means, McLaren should have won that race 1-2.
100%.
1-2.
Yeah.
There's no excuses. They should have won that race 1-2. Whether it like they were 1-2 for a whole bunch of laps, and maybe down the line Oscar tried to move, and then he becomes one,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But they should have finished as a team. They should have finished that race 1-2.
Yep.
But it is what it is. So I mean, we're what about?
I
It's not this weekend. It's next weekend,
Next
right? So
weekend
we're
we've got a
about
week in between, and we've got Azerbaijan, the
yeah,
Baku, beautiful racetrack.
mm,
This is one of those races for me. It's less about the actual track layout; it's more about
mm,
give me that helicopter shot with the zoom out because you get
yes,
to see this crazy city that's this mix of ancient and new, and it's just really cool. And it's right on the
yeah,
sea and everything like that. Really cool track,
yeah.
but street
Really
circuit.
cool
So
track.
see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see if Perez wakes up from his
I
slumber.
know he won this last
I
year,
don't know.
so
Yeah, he won this last year because wasn't this the same race that Russell made a mistake
was
at
it? I
as
can't
well?
remember. I just saw the result that he won.
No, 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 no. There was the race Russell lost was the one where Sainz kept on letting what's his name get into his DRS,
Oh,
and then I forgot what racetrack that was, and then when Russell like punted like hit his like either his rear or his front left on the side.
hmm
And then Lewis Hamilton said, "Okay, thank you very much." Perfect example. A perfect example. So yeah, no. So I think it's going to be a good race. There are a lot of things I'm looking for. Um, from McLaren, I'm looking for them to finally just make a decision and stop playing this BS 1-1 stupid
yeah.
scenario. I want Lando to get pole again,
hmm
and I want it to be a gap between him and Max Verstappen until Red Bull could show me that they've had a eureka moment with this car, and it looks like the great car that it looked at like at the beginning of the year. I'm sorry, I don't. There's the track record right now is saying that car is doodle butter. That's what the track record is like. Until Red Bull, until I see in a race that car looks good
yeah.
again. Like I'm looking at every race as a potential opportunity for McLaren to steal points,
Well, they've
and
got Red Bull's got time to figure it out, right? So we've got Baku coming up, and then Singapore, and then we basically have a month
yeah,
between we do the whole traveling circus moves to North America, and we have the
yeah,
Austin Grand Prix. So I don't know if we're going to see it in Baku or Singapore, which are really cool street circuits both.
mhm,
But man, I think by the
yeah.
time Austin rolls around, we're going to see a good Max Verstappen.
I will say this: for this to be interesting, Lando has to get this down to the low 40s by the time we hit that
All
break.
right. You hear that, Lando? This is on you.
That low 40s. Right now, I think it's what 64 points,
Something like that. I can pull it up.
64 or 62. It's. I
62.
think it might be 60,
Yeah.
62. It's 62 points. So I need Lando to somehow manage to get, let's say, anywhere from 14 to 18 point difference over the next two races, which could be something like a 1-6 or like a 1-7 or a 2-7.
Mm-hmm.
I think you get 25 points for first place,
Oh, don't ask
and
me to
then you
do
get
math.
yeah, but like I want him to finish
Plus the
first or
fast
second,
lap. Yeah.
plus the fast lap.
Mm-hmm.
So like basically have a anywhere from an 8 from a 7 to 9 point difference per race.
All right. Well, let's see what
That's
happens.
that's that's the goal.
Let's see what
That's
happens.
that's that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Um, oh, excuse me, but yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see how that Red Bull looks.
Yep.
Um, if I'm Ferrari right now, I'm fighting for second place in the constructors.
Yeah. If you're Ferrari, no, you're fighting for constructors. I think
Yeah,
you're still in it.
I'm that's it. I'm fighting for second place, even a potential if things get really bad, a potential
Yeah.
first. Like
I think it's
like
still in the cards. If you have Red Bull dropping off and you have McLaren not being able to um, tell their left from their right, that's the perfect opportunity to pull a Charles Leclerc
yeah,
and sneak up and do a one stop and win a race. And who knows, they might be
yep,
able to do this more than
mhm,
once, and
yep,
that's it. But yeah.
yeah. For Mercedes, I'm just looking for them to end out the year on good notes.
Hmm.
I'm looking for that car to look consistent. I'm looking for like this next race. I'm looking for George and Lewis to be strong. Like I want George, Lewis, Sainz, and Leclerc to be the meat to that sandwich that separates the McLaren loaf
Hmm.
from the Red Bull loaf.
That's funny.
I need those two teams to step up.
Yeah.
I need where even if the Red Bull looks a little bit better during the race or qualifying, I need those two teams to step up. Like I those two teams stepping up and really securing second or third until Red Bull finally understands what's wrong with their car is the meat and the difference that is needed to keep like Lando Norris like a nice distance away and really chew into this lead. And that's what I'm hoping for. And I'm just hoping that Oscar like somebody at McLaren just wake up. Like I want them to be like at headquarters, have a presentation, and are just talking about okay, here's 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 where we're at right now. Here here's all we need to get the drivers championship. Like we need Lando to consistently finish first, second, or third, and we need Verstappen to consistently finish like let's say anywhere from five to eight.
Hmm.
Because after that amazing win and this race, what they need has become easier than what it was in the past. In the past, it was like, oh, he needs to just go straight out and make but that was with the thought process that Verstappen would be right there behind him as second.
Yeah.
But right,
Let's see what Max brings.
yeah,
McLaren, control what you can control, and let's see where Red Bull nets out. I think after Azerbaijan.
exactly. Exactly, but I can't wait to see it,
Yeah.
man. It felt good to get all that off of my chest because it was really starting to get to me, and it normally doesn't. I normally don't let like
There's something about Oscar Piastri, that boy, that
yeah,
it
and,
it
and and
gets
like I
you.
said earlier, and like I said earlier, it's not him.
No, I know,
Even when
I
I
know.
was saying that boy, like it's not him. I can't fault him for being what a racer is,
Yeah.
which is selfish
Right.
at the end of the day.
Right.
I can't fault him for that.
No.
Who I can fault, who I can wag my
Right.
finger at, who I think is making a terrible mistake is
Is
McLaren
McLaren as an organization?
as an
Yeah.
organization. So
Let's.
that's where I stand. And but yeah, like I said, it was just getting under my skin. I'm hearing all these people. Like, if one more person comes to me and says, like, "Oh, what an amazing move!" like Oscar Piastri pulled, I'm gonna be like, you know what? No, it wasn't. And then they're gonna sit there and argue with me, like, "Yes, it was." I'm like, you know what? It would have made it amazing if you pulled that move on Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
That would have made it
Well,
amazing on a
maybe
competitor.
we should end there on that amazing move by Oscar Piastri. Wow, what a bold move that was. I'm just kidding.
Punk.
I'm glad we had this therapy session. It's always nice to let it
Oh
out.
yeah,
talk
Definitely.
about some playa, whatever rules.
Oh my gosh.
uh,
At least they didn't call it like PP. Like, you know, the come on, the PP rules, PP rules. Like, who was sat in that meeting and thought like papaya rules
yeah,
was something you'd want people to hear on the radio?
that's what you get, guys. Time on track. We talk about those PP rules.
Those PP rules. Oh my gosh. And with that, you know what, folks? I'm gonna sign us off. If you have any comments, suggestions, thoughts from today's
Yeah.
podcast, you can definitely hit Amarveer on his Instagram, MetaWorld
Yep.
Cool. You can hit me up on Ready Set Watch. Also comment on the podcast article when it comes out. We'd love to get some feedback from you guys and just hear any potential questions or thoughts. But yeah, that's it for this podcast on the Italian GP, and we can't wait to see you guys for Azerbaijan.
See you in Baku.
Bye bye.